Welcome, everybody, to Boston 9/11 Truth. Today is July 9th, 2026. And today we have Lawrence Fine from Hudson, Mass. And he will be discussing his research, which he has titled 9/11 Synthesis, which takes a pretty deep dive into different aspects of 9/11, which he will guide us through. I'm grateful that he's decided to present to Boston 9/11 Truth. He has been active in our group for a while, being in Massachusetts. So it's pretty cool to have what we like to consider one of our own as a guest speaker. But before I continue with introductions, I'm just going to go through a few things. First, our disclaimer. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not necessarily represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Boston 9/11 Truth. Boston 9/11 Truth is a fully inclusive group. We do not, as a group, adhere to any particular ideas on 9/11, except that we were lied to. That much we can all agree on. We're a nonpartisan group and welcome all research on 9/11. So with in that vein is also our guidelines. We ask that the participants here abide by our guidelines, which I published in the email list. And during the presentation, all participants are to please mute themselves and not interrupt the speaker. Unless he calls, the speaker should call for any questions, then you can raise your electronic hand and unmute yourself when called upon. At the end of the presentation, we always have a Q&A, and that's where you have to be particularly adherent to the guidelines. No personal attacks are allowed. And a civil discourse is to be followed. Everybody is to keep their voice at a speaking level. We like to limit our questions to 2 minutes to give everybody a chance. Q&A is not a forum for grandstanding, but to find out further information from our speaker. So stay on topic in your during the Q&A. So that's pretty much it. And without further ado, let me introduce Lorenzo, whose name is Lawrence Fine, but he's known as Lorenzo. He's a longtime student of the events of 9/11, and he brings his experience and knowledge to the effort, which includes his Air Force experience as a jet aircraft mechanic, followed by work as a contractor in building construction. He was also a senior exhibits technician for the Boston Museum of Science. During the time he was working at the Museum of Science, he also applied for a job and was one of the 3 runners-up for a GS-11 position at the National Air and Space Museum to supervise a team which would be producing an interactive exhibit on flight, a position he decided not to pursue due to the location. We will put his research in the chat. And he was also an instructor of the metals workshop for 3 seasons at the Adult Education Center in Brookline, Massachusetts, teaching machine shop, sand casting, and welding. In his retirement, he continues to consult, design, and fabricate parts for an international manufacturer for isothermal calorimeters.
Calorimeters.
Calorimeters. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But most of all, he brings his intense curiosity combined with a unique ability to analyze how things work. Welcome, Lorenzo.
Thank you very much, Susan.
Take it away.
All right. I want to describe my experiences first during the early morning hours of 9/11. I was up in my apartment in Brookline. I had just gotten a flight simulator application called X-Plane. And during the early hours from around midnight until around 6 or 7 in the morning, I was practicing flying that aircraft. And I had chosen an airport in New York to fly out of. During that time, I chose to fly towards a couple of buildings that I saw way off in the distance, started flying between them, then around them, and then doing some interesting maneuvers. And then for at least an hour before I finally got tired enough to go to sleep, to crash. I had been crashing the aircraft into those buildings, and it would send me back to the runway each time, and I would do it all over again. The images that I saw from the cockpit of a small, very maneuverable Canard, a front elevator aircraft with a single engine, very simple cockpit, were what I remembered. But every day that image would get more and more detailed for the next few years, to the point where the image of a Boeing 757 commercial airliner became morphed into what I had been witnessing that morning. It was like a daymare nightmare. It would be with me in the morning when I woke up, the last thing before I went to sleep. And finally, around 2006 or 7, when my friend Michael Blackmore and I went to see Richard Gage at the Unitarian Church in Harvard Square, and I learned more about building number 7. That nightmare, daymare abruptly disappeared. And the research that I became involved in subsequently has taken over my life since then. So this is 9/11 synthesis. It's assembling the fragments and connecting the dots, looking at all the points of evidence and testimony that help to lead to a conclusion. So there's a lot of process involved in the destruction of the World Trade Center and in the attacks on the World Trade Center towers by aircraft, the airborne attacks and the airborne attack on the Pentagon. And it'd be great if at some point we could reach a consensus where we look at the evidence, listen to the testimony and the analysis and the conclusions, and say that that's the most likely scenario. So I'm going to open up with WTC4. Susan and I, Susan was with me at the time that I discovered these photographs and subsequently the images of the geotechnical surveys, which this alludes to. This is a cavity, one of 2 distinct cavities This is the right hand cavity defined. You can see that it looks like a pair of binoculars almost. And this lower section here, in my opinion, shows signs of metamorphism, anatexy, the melting of bedrock, Manhattan schist, which is a granite. Um, I've done a lot of research using Grok and have a lot of formulas. So at some point, if somebody's really interested in the details, the temperatures and the magnitude of the devices that it would have taken to create these and the craters beneath the World Trade Towers, then we could get into that. But for now, keeping it pretty simple.
I'm going to interrupt for a second, if you don't mind.
Nope.
Why don't you tell us how you discovered where those photos came from?
Thank you for reminding me. David Meiswinkle, who was one of the original members of the Lawyers Committee, um, I emailed him with, I was having a real difficult time because I had all these images, but I couldn't determine a location. So David, in an email to David where I mentioned that I was looking for the location, he replied with a cryptic, like a one, not even a whole sentence. Well, it could have been a whole sentence. It says, contact Ms. Moss. I still have the address,
Right, you
and
don't have to find it.
that's
Go
okay. I
on.
did. So, um, so I Googled Ms. Moss and 9/11, and it sent me to this website, which was the report that she and Muser Rutledge Consulting Engineers and Charles Mergurian from the Geology Department um, at Hofstra University had written. And the first time I had been to the site before, the first time I went to that site, I noticed the pictures of the site, and I noticed a couple of technical drawings that I ignored at that time. Well, after David mentioned Ms. Moss and I got the link to this website again, I went back to the website, and that's when I noticed these two surveys, this one being the survey that was taken prior to the construction. This is still rough. It shows a lot of the original surface details of the bedrock beneath the World Trade Center. And this is in the east bathtub. The two towers are over here. This is the line between the east and the west bathtubs here. So I noticed this, and then I noticed this and noticed that they both shared Liberty Street and Church Street. So I said, that's a problem. Let's figure out what's going on here.
Because they
So
don't match.
they don't match.
Before construction and after 9/11 does not match.
Does not match. And this is in Manhattan schist, which Christopher Gioia described as one of the hardest rocks known to mankind. It's a granite um, metamorphic rock. So I started digging and came up with site graphics. And these are pretty much to scale. They had the street details, Liberty Street and Church Street, on the site graphics. So I was able to take the geotechnical surveys and very accurately match them to the site using the street details. The corners, you can see that there are 3 lines in the corner here, a couple of lines over here, and similarly over here. And each one of these, I wish I could get this larger, but each one of these has what are called locus marks, these little circles with pluses in them. And other than being maybe a half a degree out of, rotationally out around a half a degree, most of the site locus marks in this area here line up very, very closely. So this is It shows you this pretty much showed me the location in relationship to the buildings in the World Trade Center.
Does control plus work to enlarge for you?
Control plus. Oh,
Yes.
good. It also gets a little grainy, but that's okay. This detail here with these small lines crossing into this is this is a low point here. Each one of the lines that come out of this are a high point. That's the highest point in the survey right there. And eventually, before they built the buildings, they shaved everything down, so it's pretty flat. But this, what they call the till-filled valley, remained. And this is a detail that is extraordinarily revealing, especially when it comes to analyzing what occurred later in the day. Notice that this is Liberty Street here. This is where the Tillfield Valley crosses Liberty Street. And I wonder if I can move this. I'm going to go back to minus. Whoops. Um, this area right in here, right between the World Trade Center 2. I'd like to be able to get more of a detail on this, but we can do that. Okay, this is much easier to do here. I'm glad I minus this again. Too small. This section here was a part of that Tillfield Valley. And you can notice that there's quite a difference.
So can you tell us also what happened when you returned to that website to see these
Yes.
charts again
Yeah.
later?
After I discovered the website, I messaged Richard Gage and I told him about it. And he asked me where I got the information. So I gave him the URL for the website. And right after I gave it to him, I went to the website and found out that these two surveys had been taken off the website. And this was after I had sent an email looking for the information to Cheryl Moss and Charles Mergurian. So I had lifted these documents off of the website previously, so they weren't lost. Again, this area right in here and this area right here, you can see that there's what appears to me to be a lot of energy flow later in the day after this event had occurred that produced these two 40-foot spheroid cavities that came in from the west bathtub. And you can, in my opinion, the energy flowed from beneath the south tower through that rift. And you can see that there's quite a distinct difference between the east and the west bathtub at this point here. So I attribute that to the energy that was produced beneath the south tower that created a subsidence crater. And we'll get into that in the ground zero page. You're good at noticing what I'm omitting, Susan. So if there's anything else, just butt right in and ask more questions.
After 9/11 chart, the chart above
Yes.
and the line through the middle of the chart below, that's showing where
Yeah.
the subterranean
Cavities.
cavities are.
Yep.
So
This is
that shows where they charted the subterranean cavities.
right. This is the cross-section line. So what this picture here is you're looking at the side view of the depth of this. So this is flipped from flat to standing up in front of you. And the interesting thing about this detail here, I, I can go into, see if I can get into this again, get it bigger. These are the number of feet below sea level. So that's zero elevation according to the mean sea level in Manhattan. This is 100 feet below sea level, and this is 60 feet below sea level, which gives you 40 feet between it. And this I calculated using this as a scale to be also 40 feet. So the definition or the distinction that these are 40-foot spheroid cavities, spheroid because here is something that kind of approaches a circle in both cases. Energy, because of the different composition of the rocks and other anomalies when it came to generating the geotechnical surveys, can probably account for some of the irregularities, but energy flow, lower melting rock would be where where it reached out further from the center. And this would, each one of these where I'm pointing right now would be the ground zero or the center of the reaction in both cavities. There in the eastern end, which is underneath the eastern side, actually slightly outside of the WTC4 building on that side. And this one here is almost directly beneath the lobby. So this dark shaded section is an upheaval in geotechnical terms. It's a part that has risen from its previous position. And this one here is has subsided into the destroyed bedrock beneath. Having these two sections available during the survey was just such an amazing gift to anyone that wants to study this, because it defines the formation of the sphere. You can imply that there was a sphere both here and here. In the pictures that we'll show later, you'll see that these have been chipped away, and you'll see that this line here becomes broken rock because they were getting ready to build the new WTC4 on the site. So they were in very much of a hurry to get this building site cleaned out. This is just a tutorial on topographic lines, and I inverted an up drawing to show a down drawing. So these would be showing high points. So this helps to define the geotechnical survey. And my theory is that this was the first event of the day that William Rodriguez talked about being pushed up. He was in one of the sub-basement levels, and he said that he was pushed up by an explosion that happened down below. He said in the basement, thought it was something other than what I have come to conclude. My allegation is that the two reactions, the two events occurred beneath World Trade Center 4, and the energy that they produced created extraordinarily high temperature steam, which was the high temperature steam is what caused the injuries of the people that William described coming out of the elevators with their skin burned off, because steam will produce first degree burns. Richard, after a prompting from Barbara Honegger, did a wonderful description, a presentation on Andre Rousseau's study of the seismic events of the day. So if anyone's interested in that, I highly recommend that you go to it. And
Yeah,
this
when
is
you get a chance, put that link in the chat.
okay.
Yeah.
And this is the seismic event that occurred around 10 to 15 seconds prior to the first aircraft striking the first tower. The interesting thing about having underground explosions is their location. And if they're close to the surface, then they will mostly propagate waves that shake the surface up and down like a trampoline. But if they're embedded much deeper, then it will be like banging on a wall, and it will give you a sharper, much more distinct and a higher spike. And we'll get into the difference in ground zero. Uh, just more supporting testimony. William Rodriguez testimony about what happened when he was
You can go ahead and read that if you like.
on September 11th, and 19 years prior. Wow, he's been there for a long time. I'm going to reduce this so I can see the whole thing. That's good. It's better. William was pretty much the chief custodian, maintenance worker, and on the day of the attack, he was busy because people were injured, so he was helping people out. There's no reason to read it. It's people can go to the site and to this website and read it.
Okay.
Now, this is a sequence of images that after they had cooled and were continuing to cool the site down because there were extraordinarily high temperatures coming out of both the west bathtub beneath the Twin Towers and from beneath building number 7, which was to the north of this whole complex, and out of the west bathtub, excuse me, the east bathtub, which building number WTC4 occupied. So this image here is one of the first images that they took. You can see that some of this is the slurry wall back here. And I believe that this is on the west end of the building. And this shows some of the original contour of the bedrock before they flattened it. So what I'm doing right now is running my cursor along what they had graded the bedrock down to so that you have a flat surface to build on. So this is still underneath that slurry wall. And this is a hole that wasn't there when the building was built, according to the survey. And there are 2 of them. And this is what happens, and we'll go to Nevada test flats and look at what happens when a subterranean nuclear test is detonated. There will be extraordinary amount of energy produced, which will vaporize and melt and shatter the bedrock that surrounds it. This is a result of the shattering of the bedrock caused by the immense pressure that's created during that initial reaction when all the gases are right around the ground zero, the point of detonation, are vaporized and expand extraordinarily rapidly, causing everything around it to either vaporize and then melt as it got further out and then shatter. They were starting to excavate the site with excavators, and they were also chipping. That's a chipper there. So they're chipping away at that bedrock, this bedrock here that hung over the site. Those would be the sections that you could see in the initial post 9/11's geotechnical survey. Again, chipping. You can see the fracture marks on the sides. And this is a good picture here that shows makes a real distinction between the surface textures of what are crevices that pre-existed for a long time in the bedrock, where you can see weathering, oxides, whatever minerals that oxidized in the rock changed to this darker gray. And then down here, you can see the surface texture is quite a bit different. Anatexy is a word that we got into a long time ago as I did some searches in geological groups on Facebook, and somebody reacted to the pictures that I sent and said, that's anatexy. And it's a description of what happens to a boundary layer of bedrock, of metamorphic rock, especially, that is exposed to an extraordinary amount of heat. And this is the end of that initial heat fracture zone. There, to make a distinction, heat will fracture uh, bedrock or metamorphic rock out to a boundary. And then once that heat is used up, um, and this is would be the melt layer of the magma. Um, so you've got in the center of the reaction, you've got uh, vaporization, and then around further out you have a melting, and this surface area here would be the boundary of that melt zone. So anything inside that could easily be washed off, essentially, or brushed off, and that's where this is where it becomes solid, homogeneous bedrock again. More chipping. This is they're pressure washing the boundaries. You can see right here, this is the chip zone above that line there. That's the line there. Everything above it has been chipped away. They couldn't leave these large but loose sections of bedrock and be able to build on the site. So they had to remove everything that wasn't a good monolithic, or at least a substantial section of bedrock in that area. You can also see that there's a foundation wall going in here for the new building. Workmen are still working on cleaning out, washing the site walls down. And this is a slurry of material that they had washed using pressure washers off the wall. You can see their pressure washing lines and their sump pumping lines. So they're able to pump the slurry out as they wash the walls down. This is Chris Joya said, "What is that building?" And he said, "It's the brand new WTC7," which Chris said was up during this period of time. And also notice there's a steel tube that's sticking up from the bedrock. It's maybe 12 to 16 inches in diameter. I'm just estimating. That could be 24. I've never gotten a determination on that. But this is one of my uh, favorite images of the site, because that shows
The swirling of the formations there. It's really quite
and this also helps to define
beautiful.
the way that the rock wound up. The metamorphic rock forms gravitationally in layers and is compressed over eons. And during plate movements, sometimes that rock gets upended. So what you're looking at here is a section of rock that was originally flat. And during the tectonic movement of the Earth, this rock was upended onto its side. And when that reaction occurred, it melted through the different tectonic, or through the different metamorphic layers, the layers of the rock. And you can see the different minerals as it expanded outward further. So it's more like a bullseye than a spiral. So
Yeah,
that I'm glad you made that comment, because it helped to get me to the point where I could describe it further.
great.
Uh, That's the post office building there. And this is a good view of a good aerial view of the progress that's going on with the new foundation pourings. Again, they're pouring more This is a form for pouring more foundation here.
It's also a good picture of the scale.
Yes,
It's how enormous
it is. Well, the
it actually
ladders
is.
really help to define the scale too, because it's generally around what would it be, 12 inches between rungs, 12 to 14 inches between rungs on a ladder. So the ladders helped a lot too, but the geotechnical survey was key in determining the size of those cavities. Again, this is WTC7. That's that pipe that we were talking about, which is at the north end of the site, since WTC7 was at the north end.
Did you ever determine what that pipe is?
No.
Huh.
Somebody else on this call may feel like digging deeper into that. It appears to have been there for a while, and I do not think that it was a service pipe for dropping any uh, explosives into the site, because that would have generally been right around the point of the center of the explosion. that they would drill down and lower an explosive into the what they wanted to create a cavity. That's pretty much it for WTC4. I'll stop now for a couple of minutes and since we're on 4, answer any questions that anyone has about 4.
Okay, so raise your electronic hand if you have any questions about this portion of the presentation. No?
Magnus
Oh,
is does.
Magnus, go ahead, Magnus.
Oh, thank you so much. And
Thank
thank
you
you
for your
for
interest, Magnus.
yeah, thank you for showing me this under 4 because I have seen anomalies or what I should call it during the stones. I have seen so much extreme heat and disformation and
Yeah,
only extreme heat could have produced that. So I wanted to thank you for showing all this stuff, and it's very great to see these pictures because this goes further than what I have seen.
I dig deep. I dive deep. Thank you, Magnus.
Thank you, but you believe it's extreme heat?
The extreme heat is that's the definition of what created these cavities. Something that was hot enough to vaporize and melt and shatter bedrock, this Manhattan schist.
Thank you. Wow,
You're welcome. Thank you for your interest too, Magnus.
great.
I always have
Anybody
a
else?
problem with left and right with the note was not mirroring. So this being the first event of the day, I'm going to go directly to Manhattan Airborne sorties because they followed. If this was indeed the first event of the day, then the Manhattan, the attacks on the World Trade Towers by aircraft were the second major shock and awe events of the day. But actually, the first ones that the ones that we first had our attention drawn to, because it wasn't hidden deep in the bedrock. This is one of my favorite images, and it explains the whole thing in a nutshell. And I'll just go right through it. I believe in my studies have led me to conclude that the aircraft that struck the towers were Boeing 757 and most likely modified aircraft, military airframes. This, in the time sequence, shows the initial fireball, but there's also all of these objects, these bright objects that are leaving white smoke trails. And also there's a white smoke haze here. And you can also see following that there's a lot more white smoke descending downward while the fuel is being consumed in this fireball. There are particles and a lot of smoke that is descending downward around the towers. Uh, Fire almost, fuel almost consumed within maybe 4 or 5 seconds, but you can still see that there's all this smoke descending around the towers. And meanwhile, the fire is, this jet fuel has turned into black carbon and just black smoke. And there's a study, like 3 points of study that I did on this after discovering it. And this was helped a lot by having watched Dave Von Kleist's In Plain Sight, a presentation, again, many, many years ago. Dave was a really good journalist. I appreciate the work that he has done and the contributions that he's made. One of the questions that was asked, or one of the things that was noticed was a flash that occurred just a split second before the aircraft connected physically with the tower. And we'll get into some images of that a little bit later. There are a lot of images online too that show a distinct flash that occurred. It's also visible in the No Day Brothers video, which was the only video that I know of that was taken of the first strike on the first tower, on the North Tower. Now, it's critical because a post-crash fire is not guaranteed, and you need certain conditions to set kerosene or jet aircraft fuel on fire. Especially there are higher flash point fuels that will ignite at higher temperatures. And if an aircraft just collides with something that is essentially cool, like the buildings were on 9/11, you may not get the Hollywood special effects fireball. So the perpetrators understood that in order to get the most bang for their buck, they better guarantee the fireball. And the way of doing that was to include an incendiary in the mix. And a number of people, witnesses, described a pod on the lower right belly of the plane. They described aircraft with no windows, a big blue logo, a big gray military airplane. So as far as these aircraft being civilian airliners, it's not on, this is something I do not subscribe to at all. I'm fully invested in the aircraft that struck the towers as being specially outfitted aircraft with white phosphorus projectile or rocket, most likely a rocket because of what appears to be a rocket trail, a solid fuel rocket trail that passes through the building, and the descending particles of burning white-hot white phosphorus. And this is another thing that a lot of people with different opinions about what evidence is and how to define it, people have not correlated that the ground fires around the World Trade Center were caused by the white phosphorus that fell to the ground on top of cars, buses, fire trucks, well, whatever vehicles there were, and anything, including people, that was in their trajectory as these shattered particles of white phosphorus descended to the ground. So um, this is a link, and I can add these all to the chat. Definition of what white phosphorus. It's an incendiary. It's used for making smoke screens, but it was also used, and it's against the law. It is not. The armies, this is not allowed in current warfare. And Israel is relentlessly dropping white phosphorus on Lebanon. They had been dropping it on Gaza. Rich O'Coin, who was Susan's roommate, closest friend for a long time, and I got into a conversation years ago before he passed. And he came up with a photograph of a UN garage in Gaza that had been attacked by Israeli white phosphorus, and the vehicles were burned out. It was a very similar incendiary event as to what occurred in Manhattan on 9/11. So it's just, I thank Rich for doing that, because he was thinking it was another caused by something else. Um, okay, why not? See if it's available.
Yes. Oh,
Ah, shoot.
you have to confirm your age. Are you over 18?
I don't know whether I'm gonna be able to get in. That would be too bad. Oh, good. Did you see that flash just before the aircraft struck?
One more time.
Did you see that flash?
Yeah.
Ah, And you can also see that the fuel tanks have ruptured, and we're starting to get the fuel is starting to ignite. This is the first sign of a conflagration caused by the white phosphorus. Now, as we watch further, you'll notice that passing through the tower, there are these particles. This, I believe, is the rocket motor. You can see these particles glowing. And this is the growth of the fireball as the fuel has, as the tank, as the belly or the wing root tank has erupted, and all that fuel that is being dissipated is catching on fire.
Adam has asked you to replay the video footage with the video window enlarged.
Is this good? Oh, enlarged?
Yeah, enlarged.
Let's see if we can do that.
When you hovered down below, there was an enlarged symbol.
Oh,
There you go.
oh, this one.
Yes.
Full screen. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Okay. You
Click
can
on
see
that.
that. Good. Good. And let's see if I can get this going. So you've seen that. Everybody's clear on that.
It's
And
enlarging for us.
huh?
It's not enlarging for us.
Oh dear. Sorry about that. I can't do it then, apparently.
Hmm.
So escape.
Try it one more time.
I can't even get this to do anything now.
Oh dear.
So I'm stuck.
Uh-oh.
Let's see.
You're in edit mode, it seems.
It seems that way. I can't escape.
Stop share and reshare.
Oh, you're good. You're getting very good at this, Susan. So you can see the particles, the bright glowing particles are descending, and you can see the smoke that's descending.
We still just see you.
Huh?
We don't see your share screen.
Oh. How do I get back to that?
Share screen.
I have to go to, I can't find it here now. I have to go to
On
the,
Zoom, share screen. Go to Zoom, share screen, and pick the YouTube.
I have to enlarge this window. So I can get to that. Share. Okay, let's see if this works. Close that now. Okay. I won't try that again.
Okay. So people can always go to your website.
Yeah, that link is on the
links.
website.
I put all the links for the different aspects of your website in the chat. And they can click on that video.
So there are a number of angles, and I'll just quickly scan through them, but you can see that's what I believe to be the rocket motor itself, because it has the largest profile, and it also has a good amount of white smoke, and it's buffeting. It looks like a solid fuel rocket motor. So I'll just quickly go through this.
You have to do share screen again.
Can you see this now?
No,
Oh, you can't see the share screen?
no.
Going back to this, share. And I want to share this screen. Hopefully this will get us to Can you see that now?
No.
Oh dear. I'm gonna close the window down. Second thought, see if I can get back to. Okay, that might be more manageable. So we're on this page now. Before I go again, I'm going to ask if you can see the screen yet. Share. And I want to share screens. There we go. Okay. It's been a while since I did this, so can you see it
There we
now?
go. There we go. Yeah.
Okay. Bigger.
Never fails to astound me.
Pardon?
It never fails to astound me, the images of 9/11.
Yeah, me too. So I'm going to continue to.
Jeez.
Holy shit!
Now this again,
Holy shit!
you can see that this is on a trajectory, a downward sloping curve. It's passed through the building and is going to wind up on the ground somewhere over around here, as are a lot of the other particles, and you'll see some more distinct closer ups.
Oh my god.
So you can also again notice, whoops, that see all this stuff that's falling. That's all, again, in my opinion, white phosphorus, and that's the result of the flash of the missile that was launched just that moment before the aircraft struck, that produced the heat that ignited this fuel and created a dramatic fireball. I think that's probably enough on this subject. Oh, that's interesting.
Oh my god!
You can see the flash. There was also a light reflecting off the building. There might have been light reflecting off the windshield, sunlight reflecting off one of the windscreens on the aircraft that was approaching. I'll play that back again. But notice just that moment before impact that there is a flash. So a lot of people got this.
Oh, yes.
Did you see that flash again?
Yeah. Little dot. Wow.
You can see the white phosphorus. Again, my allegation that is white phosphorus is that's descending. The smoke and the glowing particles are created by white phosphorus.
My god. But if we could go to international tourist place, lots of people, there's another plane coming down. You see? Boom! Wow.
All right. Enough of this. I'm going to close this window. Okay, I want to make sure this one stays. I can close this one now. Can you still see the screen?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Again, Dave Von Klick's Ripple Effect and In Plain Sight are two very revealing presentations if you're into studying this stuff at all. Now, The idea of an autonomous onboard target-seeking guidance system. Raytheon had been working on this, and I heard that a number of the people that were allegedly on one of the aircraft that was considered to be a hijacked aircraft were Raytheon personnel that were. I couldn't find any. A lot of people have different opinions on the aircraft, so I'll just leave it at that. So having a target, and there were people working in the towers. What appeared to be Mossad or Israeli operatives, and a guidance system, a target, like a real target, either a radio beacon of some sort or some sort of a beacon that a target-seeking guidance system can lock onto, would have been the ideal and one of the most simple and effective ways of getting an aircraft to the target. And both of these aircraft came very close to vertical center, a vertical center line of the building. The second aircraft was a little bit off, maybe 10 or 15 feet off to the right, but the first one that we saw was nearly dead on center of the building, the one that was captured by the Naudet brothers. All right, so that's the Manhattan Airborne sortie, which I believe was actually the second major event, the first one being WTC-4. The destruction of the towers. These were the two subsidence craters. Now, this has been filled in on planks. See this ramp? That's their access ramp to bring in their recovery equipment, their cleanup equipment. This is a fence a boundary fence that really helps to define this subsidence beneath the site of the North Tower. It would have continued around here. As a matter of fact, it most probably did, but in order to get vehicles in, they had to have a fairly stable platform to drive on. So getting in and out of here, they come through this route here and around and do all their work outside of the area of the damage. And again, you can see that they put down planking here to help to stabilize, give a stable platform for the work vehicles, the cranes, the derricks, and the dump trucks, excavators to come in.
Any idea how deep that substance crater is?
Well, we'll get into that when we look at this one and just a little bit further down. But it appears to be at least maybe 15 to 20 feet deep in the center of the one beneath the South Tower.
Okay. So Jerry put in the chat, I believe that is the oil separators there in those circles.
Interesting. What, oil separator?
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
I have no idea what that refers to either. Oil hasn't come into the equation at all as far as I've been able to surmise.
Okay.
So this is
during the Q&A, if you could elaborate on that, Jerry, that would be great.
okay. So this is the subsidence crater beneath the South Tower, and it is the smaller of the two, interestingly. And we could talk about the seismic events in a minute. But you can see the people standing next to this. It appears to be, 15 to 20 feet deep at the center, where the center, of the saucer caved in to the cavity that was created beneath during the extraordinarily energetic explosive event that occurred down there. The one that showed up on the seismic waves is this one here was a 2.1 on the seismograph, which is still considered, even though it was in the bedrock, because of its signature and its ability to vent mostly into some of it vented into the atmosphere, but it wasn't deep enough to produce the same kind of seismic signature that the one beneath the North Tower produced. And almost everybody that has studied this agrees that there's an extraordinarily powerful, deep subterranean explosion beneath the North Tower. And we could get into that at some point. But this is defined as a deep hole in the damage report. Again, these were not there before the buildings were built. I haven't seen, I'm making that allegation. These were not present when they built the towers. Now, this deep hole is an extension of what we saw earlier in the geotechnical survey where it crossed Liberty Street of that till-filled valley. And this is where I believe that the energy that caused that detail as an energy flow detail where the temperatures were still hot enough to melt the bedrock. And that bullhead where and we can go back to the detail if anyone wants to, you can see that it stops before it gets further in. So the energy that it took to create that was no longer available. The temperature had been used, the entropy, had worked its way to the point where it no longer had the energy left to melt the bedrock at that point. And these are the damage. This is, by the way, rotated about 80 degrees. This would be the North Tower, that would be the South Tower. And this is the deep hole, the thing that we just described in that this here. And this is the south end facing us as though we're facing it from the south. We'd be standing over here in order to see that picture. We'd be standing right about here in order to see that image of the South Tower. But this key also is gone. There's nothing. The core. I mean, this is where the most massive sections of the core column structure were, and there was nothing there. People later, when they were cleaning the place out, said they were pulling steel out and it had molten ends and molten steel running down. I think one description that somebody said molten steel running down the channel rails. So whatever was in these holes was heated enough to produce molten steel. WTC4, interesting. Where does WTC4 come into the picture and how did it get damaged? Well, we saw the pictures of the bedrock beneath WTC4. We saw the pictures of the two 40-foot spheroid cavities and the surfaces of those, which suggests that there was an extraordinarily energetic explosive event that occurred down there too. Another supporting document talking about damage. Now, this is something that I've been trying to get a friend to do for the longest time. He had SolidWorks, he had, it's a computer-assisted drafting program, and you can do animations. And I said, Alex, please, some point, do a SolidWorks rendering of this. And I described that, we have this extraordinarily energetic event that occurs where that vaporizes and then melts and then shatters bedrock, and it creates a subsidence beneath the core structure. And you can see at that point there, this is a 5th grade animation, just maybe 13 or 14 frames on lined paper. I finally felt compelled to produce since I couldn't find anyone else to do anything more professional. So this shows the results of the initial explosion, the vaporization, the melt out to a boundary layer. So beneath the towers, there's probably a spheroid cavity, like a nuclear cavity, that who knows what's going on down there now. They may have done work in it by now, more than 20 years later. It's definitely cooled down in the past 20 years. And if they did use devices that were state-of-the-art at the time for doing nuclear excavation, then there'd be little to no radiological artifacts left if they used a neutron type device, or as Project Plowshare was working on, more devices that could be accepted by the public because they wouldn't produce the radiological side effects that everybody in the world is afraid of today. So this is the first stage, the creation of the cavity and the substance. So you can see there's the vaporization, melt. And then Susan told me that she really liked the background because I shaded each background as the sphere got larger. She said, I really like what you did with the background because it's just, that's just a little aside, a little segue. So this substance, in my opinion, was designed to eliminate support, to take the support for the core columns away. And this is key to the initial destruction of the building. As the core drops, it puts tension on these, which are an illustration of the floor joists, which connected the core column to the perimeter columns. Now, these are all, this is just line drives now, but these are all structural columns. So as this drops, it puts stress on these, and all the connections at both ends are stressed and probably fail. And as this column as the core starts to drop, what is noticeable is that the top explosive activity commences. And this is when this building, which has been totally compromised structurally at this point, that explosives placed appropriately in the core structure are now initiated. And because the perimeter is no longer attached to the core, they can be blown away from the building. Now, Grok and I got into a really extended conversation. It just got more and more fascinating regarding the destruction of the World Trade Towers. At first, Grok said, no, can't do it. And I said, well, let's try a neutron device and bury it deeply and in a way that a certain yield will have these results where it will melt and melt, vaporize, melt, and fracture bedrock and create a subsidence. And Grok got into a really good set of formulas where we determined that a thermonuclear device of a certain yield, buried a certain depth, would do the job. So after we got through that, I said, well, there's this other really deep curiosity that I have, and many people in this community are aware that a section of the tower, the section of the tower that remained standing, a lot of people refer to it as the spire. And I said, Grok, let's look at the spire. And I said, what's the best placement of location for explosives? And we came to the conclusion that we'd get a lot more bang for the buck if we place the explosives approximately 1/3 the way in the elevator shafts, right near the end of the elevator shafts, so that the explosions on the one end of the elevator shaft would work outward in that direction, work outward in that direction. And they would also, according to Grok, have an amplification effect where they overlapped. And in between those two explosions, it's like when you clap your hands, there's this place between your hands that nothing is moving. You get a slap sound, but it's essentially a place where there's a zero crossing of energy. And I said, Grok, the word is null, N-U-L-L, a null zone, a place where pressure or temperature or electrical voltage or amperage has reached a crossing point. And AC would be the point between the downward cycle and the upward cycle. In sound, it would be that zero line between frequencies where you walk into a certain place in the room and you don't hear a note that you're playing because it's being canceled because of the pressure. You're in a pressure null. So this is the conclusion that we came up with, was that approximately there and there, right near the boundaries of the elevator columns, is where the explosives would be placed. Those would be conventional, like RDX or another one that Grok, and I'll be glad to send anyone that's interested the links to those Grok conversations so that you can get into the finite, the engineering, the physics, just all of the wonderful details that intelligence of that level, which I don't have, is able to glean and produce these amazing stories from. So this is that's pretty much it. Project Plowshare. I was not going to go nuclear. And for years, I had been accused of being a nuker by people in the community. And I wasn't. I always used extraordinarily energetic, explosive event as a description, although the first time I looked at the pictures of the cavities beneath WTC-4, I said, somebody has set off a nuke in Manhattan. But I couldn't go there because I knew the community, this was not going to accept that. So I just stuck with extraordinarily energetic, explosive events until I discovered Project Plowshare. This opened the floodgates for me. And it's a program that was conducted in the United States in the 60s by the nuclear community, Lawrence Livermore and Los Alamos communities, to use explosives for peacetime in excavating, for fracking, fracturing, which it is definitely useful for. And they were finding different yields at different depths and different compounds of different types of substance, sand, rock. I would like to play this. It's, may I, Susan? We have a little time. Let's see if it'll come up.
Have you ever seen a magical product that transforms any
No, I
ordinary
don't want to
space
see
into
this.
a romantic universe in seconds?
Where's the skip ad?
It's the ultimate.
This just shows you the amazing containment of this energy source continuing.
We don't hear the sound. I put the link in the chat and in any case. Didn't enable sound.
You want to say something to some people for a second, Susan?
Yeah, we don't hear the video.
Oh, you don't hear it?
No,
Here. Oh, that's a shame.
you need to enable sound. I'm not sure where that is.
Well, I can also include this link is in the web is in 9/11 synthesis. So if anyone's really interested in hearing the music, it's really let's see if I can.
I put the link in the chat.
Oh, you put the link in the chat?
Yes, I did.
Oh, thank you, Susan. Thank you.
It's pretty interesting techno music that goes along with it.
This shows how easily crumbled what had been pretty much solid, either metamorphic or other forget different names for different forms of rock, but essentially it gets to the point where it's powder out to a boundary layer. It becomes soft, like talc or chalk.
So Project Plowshare was a project post-war using in the late 70s, using nuclear energy for peaceful
Exploding.
measures, such
So
as
using thermonuclear explosives
yeah.
for peacetime, rather than bombs, rather than swords or bombs, they turned into plowshares or ways of moving the earth.
So Project Plowshare basically says we had the technology and we were ready to use it.
Except that the public wouldn't accept it because of the potential dangers, and the project was discontinued. I have a feeling I know where most of these scientists wound up.
Hmm.
We won't go into that.
All right. So it was used somewhere, right?
What?
Project Plowshare, it was used somewhere, right?
Well, they were talking about experiment. They were testing in Nevada, and who knows where else once Israel got their hands on nuclear devices. Yeah, this technology has been tested and proven. And again, fallout was the biggest consideration. Airborne particulate fallout was the thing that most people were afraid of, which is why it was discontinued here. I believe that there were other players in the field that set off, used portions of South Africa for testing. I think there were nuclear or major seismological events occurring in the far outs in South Africa. And again, we won't get into the particulars of what nation or what ideology is responsible for that.
Does this conclude this section of the of your presentation, or is there more that you want to stop sharing and go back?
Yeah, it's getting on to be on in time, isn't it? So let's soak in. I'm gonna shut this window.
There we go.
So this is thank you for coaching, Susan. The essence is that there was an awful lot of energy produced that vaporized and melted and shattered bedrock, created a chimney, which is subsidence, a shattered section of rock that formed a substance. And this is what the core columns, the core structure of the World Trade Towers fell into just at the moment that the top-down explosive destruction or you can see that there's a pumper there, a blue pumper, still pumping water onto the site. They had not built the boundary fence around here yet, but they had started compacting the soil here and were driving trucks in. But this is where that white boundary fence was. This is where the 2.3 magnitude seismological event occurred down here somewhere. And this is where the 2.1 magnitude event occurred down here somewhere. Again, this is the south tower, and this is where that deep hole went off in this direction here towards the west bathtub. West? The east, excuse me, east bathtub. Sorry. And this is, again, energy flow. This is that bullhead that I was talking about where the energy flowed from beneath the south tower, which was right over here, went through that chill-filled valley, entered here, and created this. Notice the detail here. It's moved. It appears to have been pushed in that direction just stopped there. These are all deep points. This is where it comes up to the surface. So this is where it vented, or where the energy finally wasn't enough to melt the bedrock anymore. So, and this is where they excavated. They had to clean out all the debris because they were building on the site again. That's it's pretty much that. Pentagon. Go right to the Pentagon and then get out
You're
of
gonna
here.
take Q&A at this point?
Sure, I'll go back to the yeah.
Okay, anyone who has questions on the ground zero portion, please raise your hand. Jerry, go ahead.
Hi, Lawrence. Hopefully,
Hey, Jerry.
Hiya. Thank you very much for your presentation. You have went very in depth there. It's good to see people looking at that level of detail around it. Yeah. Talking about digging deep. One thing that struck me, and I'll have to check exactly where they were. When I mentioned oil separators, when you were looking at these holes here, what they do is, if you have a look at I've shared the drawing there it's from Structural Drawing Book 8 and into the chat. What they do is they dig a hole. If you look at that drawing there, elevation 242 refers to where bedrock is, so that's right down.
I'm sorry, I'm not following you. You're talking about.
Can you stop share screen,
Sure.
Lorenzo, and I will share his drawing?
It's just that it would be interesting to
I've stopped
see.
sharing.
Okay, hold on a second. There we go. Can you all see that?
No.
I don't see it.
Okay,
now.
I do see it now.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
There's
If
always
you
a
see
bit of a delay.
where elevation 242 is, or 240 is here, is bedrock below. So underneath each of these
I can't
towers.
see the details on it, but go ahead.
I'll send you the drawing. I'll email you it.
Okay.
What they do is they dig a pit here, and they put in where it says oil separator there. The NIC, I think, is just not in contract. It's a different contract. Okay, so what happens is they dig a hole that's deeper, because obviously any environmentally hazardous runoff is going to then, they want to separate that so it doesn't go into the groundwater. I think that's what some of these cavities might well be. But certainly, if you want to reach out, if you want to take a few hours one night and go through the drawings
That
to
would be
see
good,
if these line up with that.
Do a one-on-one Zoom if you'd like.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get to the bottom of it here in this call, certainly, but feel free to reach out, and we could go through these drawings and work out exactly where these cavities might be. And it's not to say that this debunks what you're saying, because it would be the perfect place to do what you're talking about. I don't think we're going to agree on the nuclear thing, but it certainly, it doesn't debunk what you're saying in and of itself, but it would account for these cavities. It would just save you drilling a hole to do what you were saying. But yeah, thank you very much for your presentation, and as I say, feel very free.
Thank you very much
reach
for
out to me.
joining the call.
Okay.
Yeah, I would venture to say that the size. I've done oil separation in a couple of different one particular job, different ways of separating oil. So I'm fairly familiar with the different technologies of either centrifugal or skimming or filtering. We tried a filter at one point, which got clogged badly. But wound up using a skimmer for doing oil separation when I was working at the Museum of Science. We had an exhibit that the exhibit maintenance crew had been dumping the oil that was recovered from the steam engine, as we had to mix oil with the water that the steam was made from, and this would come out and it would fill a bucket. So there was this bucket full of water and with an inch or so of oil on the top. And they would dump it right into the Charles River the way it was. And I was this is probably one of the reasons I got fired, was because I was kind of adamant about, we have to find a way to stop polluting the Charles, even though it's a small amount, where every drop makes a difference. So let's take responsibility. Yeah. Again, this is a boundary layer here to prevent, you saw one of the other pictures earlier where they hadn't yet put the reinforcement in. I guess they discovered that the ground had been caving in beneath the vehicles and they needed to stabilize it more. Wonder if that's.
Are you trying to share screen because we're not seeing it?
Oh, I'll have to do that again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this is pretty much the same as what you're talking about. It just relies on the oil being lighter than the runoff, because obviously they were connected right to the Hudson, so they didn't,
right.
you know, for the cooling systems, so that they had to ensure, even back in those days, they were environmentally aware enough not to spill over anything hazardous back into the Hudson, which is what these
Right.
were for.
Yeah. Well, given the time and everything involved, and the fact that the fire department or the other municipal departments were pumping water onto the site for months to cool it down. That water, and people have actually, a lot of people in the community that are pro-nuclear in some way, although we don't agree on what the effect of the nuclear devices had. I'm the thermonuclear guy. A lot of other people are into the radiological effects of a thermonuclear device on steel, the molecular atomic structure of steel, which actually it does have, but a very small degree compared to the thermal effects that it has in order to reduce the bedrock. So yeah, for months the fire department was pouring water onto ground zero to cool the site down. So that water, some of it was leaching out through whatever crevices and fissures were made. I don't think they were too worried about any oil in the bedrock at that point, but I appreciate you sharing your opinion about. And these are also, you know, I'm just guessing that's probably 60 to 80 feet in diameter. The implication is probably, and that's just a subsidence above whatever I believe, whatever I've concluded occurred 80 to 100 feet deep. My cursor won't go down there, but you know, way down deep underneath here to create that subsidence. And again, this one here, 2.3 magnitude event occurred in the bedrock, and a 2.1 event occurred in the bedrock, just seconds, 14, 15 seconds prior to the dismemberment, the explosive top-down dismemberment of each of the towers. All right, so I'm going to go on, continue. We were already here. We're already for the. Okay, any more? We've already been through this. Any other questions or comments?
Seeing none, let's go on.
All right. We're going to go to the Pentagon?
Yep.
So 3 witnesses and almost every photograph that I've seen of the site has led me to the conclusion that an aircraft of any size or type did not, other than a missile, an aircraft did not crash into the Pentagon. There are 3 a reporter, you can read this. I'll just let you look at each one of these. Give it around 15 seconds each. Is that enough?
Yep.
That's good. Number 2, timer. This one here has a little more text in it.
Do you want to read any of that or summarize it?
That a national reporter, a journalist, said, no, no sign of any plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. He saw parts, but nothing of substance. Things that could be hand carried, essentially, pieces, parts that one or two people could carry and place. Turbine wheel, section of an aircraft landing gear wheel, sections of a fuselage that had markings on it. And one of the key people, he was there very, very shortly after they said it was a plane, and I didn't see any pieces of any plane, and I couldn't believe a plane hit the building. The strange absence of airliner debris. There was no sign of the kind of damage to the Pentagon structure one would expect from the impact of a large airliner. The visible evidence or lack thereof. So this is where lack of evidence becomes much more viable evidence than anything that was placed there. The substantial lack of evidence is critical. And the way that the evidence was distributed. It was not like crumpled up against the Pentagon, which would have been more likely what would have happened if an airframe had struck it. The engines would have penetrated, the landing gear would have penetrated, because they're massive and they're solid, monolithic structures. But the wings might have done some damage near the root, but getting near the tips, less damage. And the fuselage would have been crumpled up like a dried out hot dog with a tail and horizontal and vertical stabilizers on it. So yeah, there's no evidence of wreckage. So I said, what happened then? He was a funny guy. I liked him. Wreckage, yeah. You see that the fire truck left tracks coming onto the lawn. Each one of these fire trucks left tracks from their tires, their wheels, but a Boeing 757 just happened to strike at exactly the right altitude that it did not touch the ground and then disappeared. No, I cannot. So I could not accept any of that. That's why I started looking for other testimonies. And that's when I discovered testimonies by witnesses that described a commuter-sized aircraft rather than a Boeing. On a false flag operation like 9/11, you've got a lot of players involved, and people on the ground are put there. A lot of the people that were approached were put there with a story all ready to be reported that they saw a Boeing 757. And there were a few people that said, no, it was a commuter aircraft. There was the North Path too, which the CIT, the Citizens Investigation Team, provided that, and we'll have the graphic of that in the next frame probably. Some actually testified to seeing a missile or smelling cordite, which is a solid fuel propellant. It has been used as a solid fuel propellant for rockets. They may have mistaken it because they didn't use cordite in the AGM-65, which is what I believe that these missiles that struck the Pentagon, the missile that struck the Pentagon was a Maverick, an AGM-65. Perfect platform for the job. Armored, can do close ground support. It could fly over an impact zone and not be critically damaged by any of the debris that was explosive away from the center. We did a presentation with Wayne Costi at the Boston 9/11 meeting at Jane Milliken's house a number of years ago, and almost everyone in the room. Okay, the premise was that Wayne would give a presentation, and then I would give a presentation of an alternate scenario. And Wayne gave his presentation, and during the presentation, I handed him this model, which Susan gave me years ago. Of an A-10 Warthog. I put it in Wayne's hand, and he held on to it until it was time for me to give the presentation. And he had his image of the Pentagon he had this image on the screen, or an image didn't include this, but included this. And I walked up to got the warthog back from him, and I walked over to the screen and I held the warthog up and positioned it in a climbing in the alleged trajectory, which would be flying into and then climbing and doing the right-hand bank, climbing up and away from the going over to the right, getting away from the impact zone. And it was amazing how it lined up, how a lot of the details of what I was holding up. It could have been just, I'm imagining things. Of course, it looked, but there's this dark object right here. Some people have said it was the tail from the airplane. As a matter of fact, that's what the people in this video, a large chunk of the aircraft flying through the air, probably the tail section, the vertical stabilizer. And they gave it a shape that implied that it was a vertical stabilizer shape. But it wound up being a really good image for me to work with because of this. And also notice that there's no real post-crash fire. Most of any thing that resembles a conflagration would have been the initial explosive impact, and any of the post-crash fire may have been from the diesel generator, which is also impacted over, by the explosion over in this area here. So there was a smaller diesel fire that ensued, but this, after the first 5 or 6 seconds, had pretty much dissipated. Roosevelt Roberts testified before the Library of Congress. He said that he saw an aircraft fly over right after he heard the explosion. He said that he ran out to the loading platform with his gun drawn because he thought that after Manhattan that we were under attack, and he was expecting to defend the Pentagon with his handgun. Well, he saw an aircraft fly over, and he also mentioned that the aircraft circled back. He also mentioned that it was the second aircraft because we were all told that one aircraft struck the Pentagon. So this couldn't be the one that struck the Pentagon. It had to be a second aircraft. So there were a lot of things in his description that were colored by the reports that were coming out on the day of the event. He said it circled back and he thought it was to see if it had done any damage. This is the sit chart. And this is what I've gone to Grok with, trying to get a decent illustration. But this illustration here is all I really need to see. This is the perfect culmination that says the time, right down to the timing and everything. And Grok and I worked out the timing, the distance, the trajectory of the aircraft, the speeds of the aircraft, the speed that a missile would be, how close the aircraft could be. Could not be any closer and still lock on and launch a missile and avoid the peripheral damage from an explosive event. So Grok, just an amazing resource, and as are a lot of these intelligent entities out there that can get to almost any source of information and be able to formulate what is possible and what is even probable or likely from putting these points of information together. Thus, 9/11 synthesis, fragments and dots to connect. This is a picture of a solid fuel rocket motor. As a matter of fact, it's AGM-65. A steel core like a rifle barrel or shotgun, probably around 3 or 4 inches in diameter. And this is everything else. So once this is ignited, it's just go. And these are the flight control surfaces on the back, so they can lower or raise the tail in order to change the propelled trajectory of the aircraft, of the missile. And this is something that our friend from the Netherlands, Ray, it took me a while. I finally had to go to his page, and I lifted this off of his page because he wouldn't share it with me. I said, I saw that, Ray, would you please share it with me? No. So I said, finally, okay, So this is a piece of shrapnel that was embedded in a tree near the impact zone. I'm not sure which tree it was. It doesn't designate it in this picture here. It may be that piece right there. I don't know. But this is a piece of steel shrapnel that was embedded in a tree near the impact zone, which could have been either from the explosive casing. Again, this explosive would have been timed to detonate as a penetrator to go off just at the moment before it penetrated or struck the building. So that would use its forward explosive force for doing the penetration, not using the missile itself, but using a forward-facing explosive, a shaped charge essentially. And this could have been the casing from that or from the rocket motor. That's pretty much the presentation. I'm going to
Wonderful.
stop share. Thank you for inviting me, Susan.
Well, thank you for agreeing to join us. That was incredibly enlightening, I think, for anyone who will see it. And I think we can all agree that there was extremely energetic events happening on 9/11. And certainly Bin Laden did not have access to these extremely energetic events.
But there is
So
a
we were
nation,
lied to.
yeah. And I'll get into a little bit of speculation that there is a nation that we are all becoming much more aware of daily that does have access to these types of devices. And it's probably worked in developing them.
Yeah. Yeah, but certainly not Afghans in a cave.
No, firecrackers don't do this kind of stuff.
Right.
Hand grenades, rocket launchers,
Mhm.
rocket propelled grenades do not handle this kind of energy, do not dissipate this kind of energy. So if anyone's interested, share my email address, and any one of the subjects here that's Susan can share in the chat too, or I can just tell it to you, whatever. I would be glad to share anything further along with anyone that's interested in any of this stuff that I've been studying and analyzing.
Let's share your email address.
Lorenzo9 spelt out at gmail.com.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Hope to get to see you soon at Lifetime. We'll talk or chat again soon.
That'd be great.
Lorenzo9@gmail.com. It's not
Yep.
Lorenzo.9.
No, it's Lorenzo spelled out, Lorenzo9 spelled out.
Right.
No, not numerical 9, but N-I-N-E.
Right.
Lorenzo9.
And no hyphen or period.
No, just straight up.
Okay.
So I'm
Got
going to close this window so I can put the full screen on again. And we can all get back to it.
Any
Whoops.
further questions or comments before we conclude? Seeing none. It was a pretty in-depth
No pun
presentation.
intended.
Yeah, in-depth, exactly, pun intended, actually. And unfortunately, a lot of people didn't join us.
That's all right. You got the video and that's an archive.
We got the video and it's archived.
We did have some good questions and some good interactions. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a lot of people from the community, to tell you the truth, because I know there's a lot of differences that we
Right.
have.
Well, so many in our the 9/11 truth community are attached to their own theories and not very open to any opposing theories.
Well, this doesn't oppose, it is addition.
Absolutely.
Most of the stuff, except for the Pentagon,
Mhm.
the inclusion of the subterranean events beneath the World Trade Center. And Richard Gage is even getting into that most recently with post that he has recently made that shows venting from beneath the towers as they are being exploded. Timing is a little bit weird on that because I was expecting to see venting before the explosive top-down destruction, dismemberment of the towers. But you could see that these smoke, extraordinary amount of heat was being pushed. There was a high pressure and a lot of heat down below that, and he presented it and says, we need to study this more. And I've been doing this since 2015. So thank you, Richard, for saying we need to look at this more.
Jerry has his hand raised. Go ahead,
Okay.
Jerry.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with you really that we don't need to agree on everything to be able to sort of share that knowledge and that research. That we could both look at the same very in-depth research and come to two different conclusions.
Yeah.
And the truth could be somewhere in the middle. But because I suppose an interesting question that I have for you is, throughout all your research, is there any bit of the official story that makes sense to you? None of it. I've never found a bit of it that is above question.
No, not a gram. Not a gram of the official story makes any sense to me. There might be a snippet here and there that crosses the line into something that is maybe credible, but the reason that I got into this in the first place was because none of it made sense to me, and I just had to explore and come up with as many points of evidence, images on the day of the event. Everything that I've studied and analyzed has to do with events or people that have spoken on the day of the event, or people like Roosevelt Roberts that testified to the Library of Congress about the flyover at the Pentagon. Witnesses that described, no, it was not an AA aircraft, that was a military aircraft, or it had a blue logo and it had no windows. It had this pod, this thing on its lower belly. So there's an awful lot that came on early, thanks to Dave Von Kleist and his presentation in plain sight with witnesses that brought my attention to most of this stuff. That without Dave's two presentations, I wouldn't have looked in certain places. I may have if I discovered them later, but early on, he provided these points of view that really helped me to research and discover this.
I would like to make a couple of comments there. First of all, Dave Von Kleist was one of our guest speakers, so
Yep.
you can find him on our Rumble channel and also on our website, which was attacked and down for about a week, but it's back up again today. Yay!
I have to go check it out.
Yeah, it was attacked by apparently some Chinese. Anyway, so the comment to address Jerry's question, yes, there is one and only one official story that is true. And that is our democracy and our republic was attacked.
And it was attacked by people who relish in terrorism, who just this is an ideology. Terrorism is not it crosses all political lines. It's an act to strike fear into the population.
They cannot have a free population.
Yeah, it's to be able to, what is the word, Susan? To be able to control and manipulate.
That's correct. So anyway, thank you so much. I'm going to give it another second or two for any further questions.
How's my hair look?
Oh, gorgeous. How's mine?
We've been there before.
Uh,
I have a video of you doing that.
frizzies galore. It's the new fashion.
Oh, it looks much better like that.
So, all right, no further questions. I do thank you very much, Lorenzo, for joining us, and hope you join us again at our next 9/11 guest speakers event on June 29th. We're gonna have something fun. for
Music?
Music.
Oh, how can I resist?
Music, June 29th, we're going to invite 9/11 truthers who are musical to our Zoom. And I'm a strong believer in music being a great initiative and igniter for truth. You can look at that historically, especially with the civil rights movement, how much music affected that change. And I believe we need more 9/11 music.
It'd be
So-
really nice to see some good original tunes being, and there have been that. What was that guy's name? Stokes or something like that? The Building Number 7 song?
Not familiar.
Oh gosh, that was, oh, gosh, one of the first God, 10, 12, 13 years ago. I'll look it up and send you the link if I can
All
find
right,
it.
right, great. And get the link ready for our June 29th event. So it's not going to be all just original music from our community, our little narrow community, but you know, also music from the larger community. So
Magnus and Jerry, thank you for joining the call.
yeah,
My
cross the
friend,
See you.
pond.
Thank you.
You're the real heroes, staying up till past midnight to do this.
so Joe, Jerry,
Great.
Magnus, Susan, and me. Cool. Yeah,
Right.
Adam, it was a great, I mean, I've talked with Adam, and he's I'm grateful that one of my friends from outside of the circle has joined us, and it'll be fun. It'll
Joseph
be good
has
talking. Huh?
Joseph Olson has joined us late. He missed most of the presentation, but you can
He'll be able
always
to get
catch us on the Rumble channel and
Jamble?
YouTube, Rumble. And YouTube as well. You know, believe it or not, they have not taken down our channel on YouTube. So we're still there.
Still alive.
I think besides Colorado, Boston 9/11 Truth is the only standing regional 9/11 Truth group there is.
Now, what happened to Hawaii?
It's not really a group.
Okay,
It's a single individual.
all right.
Yeah.
Well, we were right on time too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
All right. See you all. Join us again on June 29th for a night of 9/11 music. Thank you.
thank you.